والسلام على رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Inshallah, we will wait a few minutes before we go into the new lesson, before we recap lesson 6 and begin chapter 7, inshallah ta'ala. All right. Anybody present have any questions or comments that they've need any clarification on, inshallah, while we wait for a few others to come in? We give a couple minutes for anybody to come in. So I think we could start, as we said last week, inshallah. We'll do a quick recap of Adabasus Disu, lesson 6. Okay, so we're going to go through this, and then we will start lesson 7, Adabasu Sabi'u. Adabasus Sabi'u. Right? So lesson 6, Adabasus Disu. متى رجعت من المدرسة يا بني؟ سعيد رجعت قبل نصف ساعة. أين أختك مريم؟ أما رجعت؟ سعيد لا أدري، أنا ما رأيتها. ماذا قرأت اليوم؟ What did you read today? سعيد قرأت اليوم درسا جديدا في الفقه. I read a new lesson in fiqh. أفهمته؟ سعيد نعم فهمته جيدا. نعم فهمته جيدا. أما قرأت القرآن اليوم؟ أما قرأت القرآن اليوم؟ Did you not read Quran today? سعيد بلى، قرأت سورة الرحمن وحفظتها. I memorized it. ففرح بي المدرس كثيرا. وقال إنك أحسن طالب في الفصل. ما شاء الله زادك الله علما يا بني. ما شاء الله زادك الله علما يا بني. سعيد أغسلت قمصاني يا أمي؟ Did you wash my shirts, oh my mother? نعم غسلتها وكويتها. نعم غسلتها وكويتها. خذ هذا القميص. سعيد هاتي ذاك يا أمي. هاتي ذاك يا أمي. ذاك أجمل من هذا. ذاك أجمل من هذا. تدخل مريم. مريم السلام عليكم، كيف حالك يا أمي؟ السلام عليكم، كيف حالك يا أمي؟ وكيف حالك يا أخي؟ وكيف حالك يا أخي؟ وعليكم السلام. وعليكم السلام. أهلا يا بنتي. أهلا يا بنتي. متى خرجت من المدرسة؟ متى خرجت من المدرسة? When did you leave school? مريم خرجت بعد صلاة الظهر. خرجت بعد صلاة الظهر. الأم: أين زميلاتك؟ أين زميلاتك؟ آمنة وفاطمة وسعاد. Where are your friends? Amina, Fatima, and Su'ad. مريم: أنا ما رأيتهن. أنا ما رأيتهن بعد الصلاة. بعد الصلاة. أنا ما رأيتهن بعد الصلاة. Right? الأم: يا بنتي أخوك حفظ سورة الرحمن. أي سورة حفظت أنت؟ أي سورة حفظت أنت؟ مريم: أنا حفظت سورة الحديد. أنا حفظت سورة الحديد، وهي أطول من سورة الرحمن. وهو أطول من سورة الرحمن. وكذلك حفظت 16 آية من سورة النبأ. من سورة النبأ. الأم: ما شاء الله إنك طالبة مجتهدة. أنا مسرورة بك. أنا مسرورة بك. أذهبت إلى المكتبة اليوم؟ أذهبت إلى المكتبة اليوم؟ Did you go to the library today? مريم: نعم ذهبت. نعم ذهبت. الأم: ماذا قرأت هناك؟ ماذا قرأت هناك؟ مريم: قرأت مجلة من باكستان اسمها الإسلام. الأم: أباللغة العربية هي؟ أباللغة العربية هي؟ مريم: لا، هي باللغة الإنجليزية. الأم: أذهبت إلى المديرة؟ مريم: لا، هي ما جاءت اليوم. هي ما جاءت اليوم. الأم: لما؟ مريم: أظن أنها ذهبت إلى مكة. الأم: أشربت الشاي؟ أشربت الشاي؟ مريم: لا، ما شربت. الأم للخادمة: هاتي الشاي يا ليلى. مريم: وهاتي قطعة خبز أيضا يا ليلى. أنا جوعاء. أنا جوعاء. All right, so that's the passage. Then we went into the exercises. We had some comprehension questions, first couple exercises. Then we went into some generic questions for for anybody else to answer. All right, we went through these. Then we also looked at some other constructs. Right, so the first one is we looked at changing from masculine to feminine. Right, masculine. Conjugating the verb from second person masculine singular to second person feminine singular. All right. For example, asharibta, ashaya ya hamidun, ya hamidu. You change it to feminine, you say asharibti, ashaya ya suadu. So ta and ti. Okay. So the hapta, you went masculine. The hapti, you went feminine. Okay. Ta ti. Right. That should be clear with everybody by now, inshallah ta'ala. And we further had emphasis on that in question 5, lesson 5. Right? So we saw here that, we have the conjugation, these four conjugations of the verb, they all carry a single ta at the end as an extra. Okay, so the root letters, sorry, are dal, ha, and ba. Dal, ha, and ba. For this particular verb, dahaba, dal, ha, ba, dahaba. These are the root letters. Okay, and then when you conjugate it, right, depending on the situation you're using it, right, in these four scenarios here, all of them, we add a ta at the end. You all can see that, right? We add a ta at the end. However, each one represents something different. And how will we know what goes on the ta, whether it's fatha, kasra, sukun, and so on, right? How would you know what goes on the ta? We look at the context in the sentence. Okay? So for example, number one, we have ana. Ana. Then we have the verb ilal matari. So ana we know means I. So once we know that is the person speaking or writing, as the case may be, that is the first person um, we have to use in conjugating the verb. Okay, so we know dhahaba. When we conjugate it for ana, we get dhahab two with a dhamma on the ta. Okay, dhahab two. Then you go down dhahabta, then dhahabat. For a third person, right, feminine is dhahabat, singular, and then dhahabti, the second person feminine, singular. So you see this small diagram below here. So we need to look at it carefully. We have the same word, and we're looking at it in our table in a diagram format here, right? So we have dal, ha, ba, and added on to that is the ta at the end. You're seeing that, right? The ta at the end. Right? We don't know what this ta carries. Depending on the scenario and what conjugation we are applying, then we know if that ta carries the sukun, fatha, kasra, or dhamma. Okay? Sukun, fatha, kasra, or dhamma. So we know the sukun is third person feminine singular, right? You see it here. Third person feminine singular. So you say in here number 3, Ukhti ذهبت إلى المستشفى. أختي ذهبت إلى المستشفى. Good. So the person who is writing or speaking is talking about or writing about their sister, right? His or her sister, right? So the verb here would refer back to the sister, because the sister we're talking about in this particular case, right? So the verb here, dhahaba, the verb dhahaba, who is doing the going? Dhahaba means to go. Who is doing the going? The sister. Is the sister involved in the conversation here? Is she the one that is speaking? No. Is she the one that is being spoken to? No, because you wouldn't speak to somebody and you wouldn't speak to your sister and say, my sister, right? Unless you have an ex-sister. But if the sister you're talking about, right? If she is going to the hospital, you wouldn't call her my sister, right? And she already knows she's going to the hospital, so why would you be telling her that she's going to the hospital, right? So you don't have to tell her that she's going to the hospital, right? So you say, Ukhti, my sister, there's somebody else you're talking to, right? So here in this case, you know clearly the Ukht is the third person, right? And of course, Ukht is feminine, so you have third person feminine, singular. So we say the habat, right? And if it's anta, second person masculine, you say dhahaba. Anti, second person feminine, you say dhahabti. And if it's ana, I am speaking, you will say ana dhahabtu. Right? So dhahabat, dhahabta, and dhahabti, and dhahabtu. It's important, we have to try and remember this. Try and remember this application here, because as we go on, we're going to add different forms of different aspects of the conjugation for dual, for plural, second person plural, third person plural, masculine, feminine. Okay, so as we go on to the next lesson, we're going to have to add more conjugations to this, what we have here. So try to remember this one. Ta, ta, all of them is ta, right? And depending on what is on the ta, then we will know if it's masculine, feminine, right? On second person and so on. Okay. Then we had an exercise on that. And we saw how if we add on now a further pronoun onto these ta here, the ta would become in the, what is the attached pronoun? It will become, the ta will change to the middle form of the letter, meaning that it occurs in the middle of a word and not at the end. So therefore we know we contract the ta. Instead of writing on the whole thing, we write it just as a, a peak and two dots, all right? As we see there below, number 7, all right? Then we went on to look at, we had a couple exercises in that, then we went on to look at, again, how we attach now pronouns at the end of a verb or a noun. Okay, and we saw these 4 pronouns being used here, the who, whom, ha, and hunna. Who means his, whom theirs, ha, hers, and hunna, theirs, feminine, right? And notice all of these are the attached form. The attached form means they have to be attached to something, right? And we see the examples below that they are attached to the verb in this case, all right? For example, number 1, أرأيت حامدا. أرأيت حامدا. Did you see Hamid? Answer is نعم رأيته. رأيته. So somebody asks you, you will reply in the first person. Yes, I saw him. So I saw, what form of the ta we'd use to add on to the verb there? Ta with the dam on it, correct, right? So you won't say ra'aita. You won't say that because that means you saw. You don't say I saw. Ra'aitu. Ra'aitu who? I saw him. So the attached pronoun there refers to the object in this of the sentence in this case. All right, Ra'aitu who. So we went through this exercise. I think a couple times we went through that exercise. Then we went on to look at Adhunnu Anna, which means, right? Adhunnu Anna is I think or I suspect or I believe, right? So Adhunnu, I think, Adhunnu Annahu Maridun. Adhunnu Annahu Maridun. I think or I suspect that he, Maridun, is sick. I suspect that he is sick. So we went through that whole lesson and we saw that, as we said, Adhunnu is normally used with Anna. Adhunnu Anna, right? And we also said that Anna is one of the sisters of Inna. Therefore, once we introduce that Anna, we're going to, the word after it or the pronoun after it is going to be in the case of Nasb, right? So we did that exercise. Then we also went through lesson 11, which is again looking at the numbers from 11 to 19 or 11 to 20 when we are counting female objects. When we are counting female objects, remember in Arabic language there are only 2 genders, masculine and feminine. Okay, and even non or inanimate objects have a gender. They are either male or female in Arabic language. Suspect in Spanish and French as well, same thing, right? So we look at when we count in female objects, how we do that. And we said the first 2 numbers, 11 and 12, they agree in gender with the thing that is being counted. So in this case, we are counting female objects. Therefore, the 2 parts of the number 11, ihda and ashara, has to be feminine, as well as ithnata asharata. They also have to be feminine. So in the case of 11 and 12, if you are counting something as feminine, then all the words will be feminine. If you're counting something as masculine, all the words will be masculine. That's 11 and 12, right? From 13 to 20, 13 to 19, remember the first part of that compound word will be opposite gender to what we are counting, and the second part will be the same gender as what we are counting. Okay? So in this case, we're counting feminine objects. Therefore, the first part of the word will be masculine and the second part feminine. Like, for example, ثلاثة عشرة طالبة. ثلاثة عشرة طالبة. Right? So we went through that a couple of times as well. Then we had an exercise now in applying that. So we're given numbers in terms of numerals, and we have to write it out in words. And of course, we need to look at the thing that is being counted to determine how, first of all, we're going to read the number, all right? And second of all, how we will write it out in words, right? Whether both will agree with the thing that is counted in gender, as in the case with 11 and 12, or whether it will be, first part of it will be opposite gender, as in the case of 13 to 19, opposite gender to the thing that is counted, right? And we have a good exercise here. Number 13 was to write out these words being counted from 11 to 20, and how we're going to apply this system that we spoke about, right? And we looked at some adjectives. For example, Jawan, Atashan, Sha'ban, and so on, right? And all of them, if you notice, are of the same pattern, right? Same pattern. And because they're the same pattern, the plurals more or less follow, the feminine and the plurals will more or less follow the same pattern. Except for the last one, Kaslanu, is a little difference in the plural, right? So that is what we did last week or week before. Then we looked at lima. We said lima is equal to limada. So lima is short for limada. So we're allowed to write lima alone by itself, or we can write limada, why, means why, okay? However, if you are using it, if you're using the short word without the whole thing, limada, if you're using the short version, lima, and we're using that alone with nothing else after it, meaning no other part of the sentence after it, then we have to include a ha at the end, as you saw in the passage above. So you have mim, fatha, and then a ha with a sukun. Lima, lima. All right? So this is just a thing on the side here. Additional notes. All right, then we looked at different words and how they change with case. So for example, kitabun, tanwin dhamma will be in the case of marfu'. It will be marfu'. Then for them to be mansub, if tanwin dhamma will change to tanwin, majrur. For them to be majrur, the tanwin fatha, the tanwin dhamma will change to tanwin kasra. And if they are changing to mansub, then it will change from tanwin dhamma to tanwin fatha, right? Of course, any word, not just here, but anytime you have a tanwin fatha at the end of a word, you always include a alif with it. It comes with the tanwin, right? A little layup with the tanwin. So once you put the tanwin on a word, you get the alif with it. Comes with it, right? Except for words that end with tar marbuta. Except for words that end with tar marbuta. Okay? Then we saw the use of the word hat. Alright, so we say hati. Ya Ahmadu, bring. Means to bring. Right? Then you have hati ya su'adu, or hatu ya ikhwanu, or hatina ya akhawatu. So if it's singular masculine, we say hati with a short kasra, no ya after lengthen there. Okay, hati. Right? Then you have feminine hati with the ya at the end. Right? So you get two bits. So hati and hati. Two beats. One is masculine, one is feminine. All right. Then we have masculine plural, hatu. Wow, added on. All right. So that means um, to, to fetch or to bring for masculine plural. And of course, feminine plural is hatina. Hatina. Yeah, akhawat. Right, so the last exercise here was to write out the first 5 ayats from Surah. First 5 ayats from Surah Al-Rahman, Al-Hadid, and An-Nabai. Alright? If anybody did that homework, send it to me on WhatsApp. We'll look at it, right? If you don't want to send it in the group, you can send it individually, inshallah. Then we had the new words, mujallatun. Mujallatun, this means magazine. Raqibun, rukabun means passenger or rider, passenger. Then shaqqatun, plural is shiqaqun, means apartment, right? Imaratun, imaratun, it means a building, apartment building, okay? Or it could be an office building as well, it don't have to be apartment building. Imaratun, right? It's a building. Plural is amairu, amairu, right? Then you have sinnun, asnanu, right? This is teeth, teeth, right? Kalimatun, kalimatun, word and words. Suratun, suwarun, suwarun. Surah or chapter, and plural is suwarun, chapters. Then you have ja'a. This is the root form of a verb, right? Pay attention to this one here. These last 2 words here, before we go to the next chapter. Last 2 words here. I'm just going to make a comment here. If you don't understand it, don't get confused, because we have to do this at a later point in time, inshallah. Maybe not too much later, but in the near future, inshallah, we'll look at this, right? You have some verbs, some special verbs, all right? We said the root letters of a verb are the letters that always occur in the conjugation, right? So, for example, as what we saw earlier, dhahaba, dal, ha, and ba. These are the 3 root letters, dal, ha, ba, 3 root letters, okay? And onto that, we add on the different letters that we have to add for the conjugation, right? For example, we say dhahab to, we add the ta, and if it's I'm speaking about something, somewhere I'm going, I would say ana dhahab to. So we add the ta at the end, but the 3 original letters remain there, dal, ha, and ba. Okay? Why am I saying all of that? Because here now we have 2 verbs where the root letters are not ordinary letters, so to speak. Alright? You have something called weak letters, and then of course you have the letter hamza. Alright? So weak letters are letters that tend to disappear sometimes in the conjugation. They are weak. So therefore, when you conjugate, sometimes they are lost, right? They're overpowered, so to speak, right? So they're lost. So weak letters are basically 3 letters of mad. The 3 letters you add on to the respective vowels to make the mad, the ya, the waw, and the aleph. These are the weak letters. So the letters are mad, right? The waw, the ya, and the aleph. These are the 3 weak letters, right? So any verb that have a weak 1 or 2 weak letters in the root word, right? In the root word there, not in conjugation, in the root word. Once you have a weak 1 or 2 weak letters in the root word, then we call it a weak verb. What do we call it? A weak verb. And there are different classifications. If the weak verb comes, the weak letter comes as the first letter, or if the weak letter comes as the second letter, or if the weak letter comes as the third letter, or if the weak letter comes as the first and last, for the second and third and so on, right? As I say, we'll get into that in the future, don't worry. I just mention it now because you have it here, right? So this word ja'a, oh, and so they are weak letters. Then there's the hamza. So some verbs, they have hamza in them, in the root letters, right? So these are called hamzated verbs. They have weak verbs and they have hamzated verbs, or more or less verbs that have a hamza as a root letter. Okay? So these are called hamzated. They're called hamzated because they have a hamza in it. Verbs. They have weak verbs and hamzated verbs. Alright? Now when we are conjugating these verbs, alright, they have slight variation in terms of the conjugation. Like how we had dahaba, dal, haba, and we add a ta at the end. So you have the three root letters and then you have the ta added on. Okay? For the conjugation. In some cases you have other letters added on for the conjugation. But when it comes to weak letters, sometimes the three root letters, one of them may fall off in the conjugation. So you end up with two of the root letters you're seeing in the verb. Right? But we'll get into that later on, inshallah ta'ala. So here we have ja'a, jim, aleph, and hamza. So this verb has a weak letter, which is the aleph, and it also has a hamza in it. Right? Next word, kawa, kawa. This is also a weak verb. It has kaf, waw, and alif maksura as the three root letters. Okay, three root letters. Kaf, waw, and ya. Sorry, not ya. Alif maksura. Right? Kawa. So the waw and the alif maksura. Well, the alif maksura is an alif, so therefore it is a weak letter. So this particular verb has two weak letters in it, the waw and the alif. Alright? And we'll see how we treat to that later on, inshallah ta'ala. So let's just mention those two types of verbs there, weak verbs and hamzated verbs. And a weak verb is basically just a verb that has a weak letter in it. Right? A weak verb is a verb that has a weak letter in it. Alright, good. So you're gonna start الدرس السابع. الدرس السابع. As usual, I'll read it first, inshallah ta'ala. We're just gonna take the first page. It's gonna take the first page, and then I'll read it, then you will read it after me, inshallah ta'ala. Alright, so please look in your books. Look in your books and follow as I read. And then after that, you'll have to, I'll say it again, and then you say it after me, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Bismillah. So right now, just listen and follow in your books. Please. الدرس السابع. الدرس السابع. Sorry, if you don't want to follow in your books, you could follow online. If you can see it on your screen, you could follow it on your screen as well. Forgot to mention that. Right? الدرس السابع. الدرس السابع. الأب. الأب. الأب means the father. الأب. أين ذهبتم بعد الدرس يا أبنائي؟ Again. أين ذهبتم بعد الصلاة بعد الدرس يا أبنائي؟ Again. أين ذهبتم بعد الدرس يا أبنائي؟ الأبناء. الأبناء ذهبنا إلى الملعب. ذهبنا إلى الملعب. We went to the playground, right? ذهبنا إلى الملعب. الأب. أكرة القدم لعبتم أم كرة السلة؟ Again. أكرة القدم لعبتم أم كرة السلة? Did you play football or basketball? Did you play football or basketball? Okay. Another way to phrase that is it football that you all played, or basketball? Is it football that you all played or basketball? Okay. Next line. Al-abna'u. Al-abna'u. لعبنا اليوم كرة القدم. لعبنا اليوم كرة القدم. لعبنا كرة السلة في الأسبوع الماضي. Again, لعبنا كرة السلة في الأسبوع الماضي. Right, so they played football today, but they played basketball last week. Right, they played basketball last week. الأب أما ذهبتم إلى المكتبة اليوم؟ أما ذهبتم إلى المكتبة اليوم؟ الأبناء بلى ذهبنا. بلى ذهبنا. الأب ماذا قرأتم هناك؟ ماذا قرأتم هناك؟ الأبناء قرأنا الصحف. قرأنا الصحف. الصحف. قرأنا الصحف. الأب أسمعتم الأخبار؟ أسمعتم الأخبار من الإذاعة اليوم؟ من الإذاعة اليوم. Right, did you listen? قرأنا الصحف means we read the papers, like the newspapers. And the father asks after that, Al-Ab, he asks, Asami'tum, did you all hear? Did you all hear? Al-Akhbar, the news, did you all hear the news? Min al-Ida'ati, from the radio al-Yawm, today. Did you hear the news on the radio today? Next line. Al-Abana'u, na'am. Na'am, sami'naha. Na'am, sami'naha. Yes, we heard it. Yes, we heard it. Al-Ab, min ayyi ida'ati sami'tum? Min ayyi ida'ati sami'tum? Sorry, ida'atin. Min ayyi ida'atin sami'tum? From which broadcast or which station did you listen? Al-Abna'u said, سمعنا من ثلاثة. من ثلاثة إذاعات. سمعنا من ثلاثة إذاعات. We heard from 3 stations. We heard or we listened from 3 stations. And they went on to list it. What are these stations? من إذاعة الرياض. من إذاعة الرياض. From station from Riyadh. Then وإذاعة القاهرة. وإذاعة القاهرة. And from the station from Cairo, or Cairo Radio. This is Cairo radio station. All right, then the last one, وإذاعة London. London, from London. Okay. So listen to 3 stations from Riyadh, Qahira, which is Cairo, and London, which is London. All right. Next line, Al-Ab. سمعت أن بلالا. سمعت أن بلالا مريض. سمعت أن بلالا مريض. وأنه في المستشفى. وأنه في المستشفى. أصحيح هذا؟ أصحيح هذا؟ الأبناء: نعم هذا صحيح. نعم هذا صحيح. شفاه الله. شفاه الله. So we'll stop there today with the passage. We'll continue the rest of the passage next week, inshallah ta'ala. So now what we'll do, sorry, the class is not ended here. We end in terms of the reading here, inshallah. What we'll do is as I said, we're going to read it and you all can read it after me, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? So hope everybody can see in the screen. If you can't see on the screen, please follow in your books. Okay, let's go. Bismillah. الدرس السابع. الأب: أين ذهبتم بعد الدرس يا أبنائي؟ أين ذهبتم بعد الدرس يا أبنائي؟ الأبناء: ذهبنا إلى الملعب. ذهبنا إلى الملعب. الأب: أكرة القدم. أكرة القدم لعبتم أم كرة السلة؟ Again, to ask the question, we use the a. Alright? So, كرة القدم لعبتم أم كرة السلة؟ الأبناء: لعبنا اليوم كرة القدم. لعبنا اليوم كرة القدم. لعبنا كرة السلة في الأسبوع الماضي. لعبنا كرة السلة. لعبنا كرة السلة في الأسبوع الماضي. So we played football. We played football today, but we played basketball last week. Okay. Next line. الأب: أما ذهبتم إلى المكتبة اليوم؟ الأبناء: بلى ذهبنا. الأب: ماذا قرأتم هناك؟ الأبناء: قرأنا الصحف. قرأنا الصحف. الأب: أسمعتم الأخبار؟ من الإذاعة اليوم؟ الأبناء. Sorry, let's read that line above again. Al-Abu, reading line above again, right? Al-Abu, أسمعتم الأخبار من الإذاعة اليوم? Did you hear the news from the radio today? Right? Al-Abna'u نعم سمعناها. Alright, why do we say ha here? Anybody? Sami'a means to what? To hear. Sami'na, we heard. Alright? So we heard ha. Sami'na ha. What is the ha?
News, plural.
Plural, good. So we have the word al-akhbar. Al-akhbar is plural of khabar. Remember the word khabar? When you have a sentence, mubtada and khabar. Okay? So the khabar is the news or the predicate in sentence, right? Tells you about the mubtada. So the plural of the plural of khabar is akhbar. So it refers to the news. So this is something that is inanimate or غير عاقل, غير عاقل, without sense. So plural of anything without sense is treated as singular feminine in the grammatical sense. Okay, so that's why you use the singular feminine pronoun attached to this word. So we say Naam sami'na ha. Yes, we heard that it or the news, right? Next line, Al Abu min ayyi ida'atin sami'tum. من أي إذاعة سمعتم. Right, so just take a note here, please. Please take a note. You saw two lines above. You have al ida'ati, al with the alif lam. Okay, al ida'ati. Right, this refers to the radio. Right, but when you say the ida'atin without the alif lam, it refers to a radio station, broadcast station, not as in terms of the building where they host the programs, but a radio station as in terms of the dial that you turn to that particular station to get the reception. Okay. Next line. الأبناء سمعنا من ثلاثة. سمعنا من ثلاث. ثلاث. سمعنا من ثلاث إذاعات. Right, we heard from 3 broadcasts or 3 radio stations. So say after me, سمعنا من ثلاث إذاعات. سمعنا من 3 إذاعات. من إذاعة الرياض وإذاعة القاهرة وإذاعة لندن. الأب سمعت أن بلالا سمعت أن بلالا سمعت أن بلالا مريض. سمعت أن بلالا مريض. وأنه في المستشفى. وأنه في المستشفى. أصحيح هذا؟ الأبناء نعم هذا صحيح شفاه الله. So we'll stop there today, inshallah. Quickly, we have a couple of minutes left. So we're just going to go through the meaning of the passage, what we read so far. So you can take any notes, any words that you don't know, just jot it down quickly, inshallah ta'ala. الدرس السابع, the 7th lesson. Al-Ab, the father. أين ذهبتم بعد الدرس يا أبنائي? Where did you all go after the lesson? Oh my children, right? Al-abna'u dhahabna ila al-mal'abi. We went to the playground, right? Mal'ab, you see the word there? End of the second line, alif, lam, mim, there's a meme there, kind of hidden with the lam. Alif, lam, mim, lam, ain, and ba. Mal'abi. Al-mal'abi, right? So the word la'iba, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أن الحياة الدنيا لعب وله. لعب وله. It is play and amusement, right? So the same word, la'ib. So from the word la'ib, we get mal'ab, which is a place that you go to play. Just as in salah, you get the musalla, the place that you perform salah, right? Next line, al-ab. So they went to the playground. So the father asked again, al-ab, akurat al-qadami la'ibtum am kurat al-salla? Did you play football or basketball? Al-abna'u, the children replied, la'ibna al-yawma kurat al-qadami. We played today football. Oh, right? We played football today. لعبنا كرة السلة في الأسبوع الماضي. We played basketball last week. الأب أما ذهبتم إلى المكتبة اليوم? Did you not go to the library today? Did you not go to the library today? Again, this is a negative question. This phrase a negative way, so we have to answer with na'am or bala. If we agree with it, we say bala, yes, we did go. If we disagree, we say na'am, we did not go. All right? So here they said bala, so they agreed the statement, meaning that yes, they went. Al-abna'u bala dhahabna. Yes, we went. Al-ab ماذا قرأتم هناك? What did you read there? Remember, it's past tense verbs we're dealing with so far. So all of these verbs are past tense form. The added on letters for the different conjugations are all added at the end of the word, as we have been seeing so far. All right. So mada, what? Qara'tum, you read. What did you read, or what you read? Hunaka, there. What did you read there at the library? Al-abna'u qara'na as-suhufu. As-suhufa. Qara'na as-suhufa. We read the newspapers. Father asks, Al-ab asks, Asami'tum al-akhbara? Did you listen to the news? Min al-idha'ati, from the radio. Al-yawm, today. Did you listen to the news from the radio today? Al-abna'u na'am sami'naha. Yes, we listened to it. Al-ab min ayyi idha'atin sami'tum? From which station did you listen? Al-abna'u sami'na, we listened in thalatha ida'atin. We listened to 3 stations or 3 broadcasts. Min ida'ati Riyadi, from Riyadh, from the station from Qahira or Cairo, and from the station from London. Al-ab, the father asks, Sami'tum or Sami'tu anna bilalan maridun. I heard anna, that Bilal maridun, is sick. I heard that Bilal is sick. Wa annahu fil mustashfa, and that he is in the hospital. As-sahihun hada, is this correct? Al-abna'u na'am hada sahihun. Shafahu Allah. Yes, this is correct. Shafahu Allahu, may Allah give him shifa or cure. All right? So this is the first page of this new lesson. Inshallah, as usual, next week we go over it again. All right, and then we add on the next half of the lesson. Right? Any quick questions? 7:45 now. So we stop here. If there are any 1 or 2 questions, and then we close off. Going once, going twice. No questions? All right, so let's close off. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah reward you all. And I see you next week, inshallah ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات تواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر السلام عليكم